Hasn't it? Like, what happened this week? What was the big thing that happened? Can you tell me? Donald Trump won the presidential election. Exactly. Yeah? Okay. So, with that happening, many people had lots of different feelings. Some people were very happy. Some people were upset. Some people felt concerned. And my friend Ashley, who is a minister in Minneapolis, said, I'm noticing all these different feelings people are having, but I want people to know one thing, and that's that they are loved. That they are loved no matter who they voted for, and that they are loved no matter who they are, and that America is for all people. And so she thought, how can I tell people this right now? And she said, I have an idea. She went into her closet and she pulled out her sidewalk chalk. And she said, this chalk will be the way I will communicate today. And so she made beautiful messages about peace and love and welcome all over the sidewalk where she lives. Everywhere she could possibly put a message about that. And then she took a picture of it and posted it on Facebook. And of course, what do you think happened? Lots of people around the country said, I have chalk too. I'm going to put messages of love and peace and justice and welcome on my sidewalk. And so today, I'm inviting each of you to do that. I have a piece of chalk for each of you in a little baggie. You can just take one and pass it. Okay. And you are going to get to use it. Well, first of all, you can, this piece of chalk that I'm giving you right now in the baggie, that's your one to take home. So when you get home, you can write your own messages of love and peace and welcome wherever you live or near where you live, okay? But Trista has a whole bucket of chalk, and you are going to be going with her to Children's Chapel, and then you're going to go outside and you're going to create messages on our sidewalks. And she's got some ideas for you about what kind of words to say, because we're going to do them in different languages. We're going to do them in English and in Spanish. We're going to say something in Arabic. We're going to do salam alaikum. We're going in Chinese. Well, I don't know if we'll do Chinese. I'm not sure. Maybe Trista can help you with that, but I'm not sure. But if you know how to say love in Chinese, you can write the characters
We
out.
can Google it.
You can Google it. That's right. You can Google it. So I encourage each of you to be a messenger of love when you get home, to write messages on your sidewalks and to keep that message of love in your hearts in the days to come. So I'm a fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy. There comes a time in that epic story when the hero, Frodo, has come through unbelievable horrors to finally dispose of the ring in the volcanic fires that would consume it and then shift the balance of the world toward the good. He is bone weary and not sure he can go on and even fulfill what he needs to do. He says to his best friend and loyal companion, Sam, "I can't do this, Sam." And Sam replies, "I know, it's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here, but we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered, full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to be the way it was when so much had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even the darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't, because they were holding on to something." Frodo then asks, "What are we holding on to, Frodo?" Sam. And Sam says, "That there's something good in the world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for." Amen. Yes. There's something good in the world, and it's worth fighting for. So much has happened since we were together a week ago. Some of us were inspired, thinking we might be electing our first female president, only to wake up to a very different outcome. Some of us did vote for Donald Trump, believing he was the better candidate. Many of us felt a tidal wave of uncertainty knock us off our feet, suddenly adrift, swept up in fear and concern for our future. I think I can safely say that all of us feel uneasy and unsettled, regardless of how we voted on Tuesday. And yet, here we are. What is our story now? Will it be a story like Sam remembered, where the shadow passes and the sun comes out again? For the moment, it is a story of grief for many, with all the manifestations of that deep and raw emotion. There's the disbelief, thinking this is all just a bad dream. There's the anger, the righteous anger, bursting out all over the place. There's the bargaining Well, maybe the Electoral College will change the outcome in December. And there's the depression and the sadness, the despair of what might have been and what may come. There's the fear, the very real fear, especially for women, sexual abuse survivors, people of color, immigrants, refugees, folks with disabilities, Muslims, Latino Americans, African Americans, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Americans. That's a lot of people afraid right now. And it's not unfounded fear. Stories surround us from just these past few days, even right here in Ogden. Little girls crying in their classrooms on Wednesday morning. A gay couple having their car spray painted with homophobic slurs. Little white boys telling little Latino boys that they are not welcome in school anymore. Little African American boys being told by their friends, I'm sorry, you won't be my friend anymore because all the black people are going away. Right here in Ogden. And then across the nation, suicides have ticked up significantly, especially among transgender people. The Ku Klux Klan is planning a victory parade in North Carolina. The lineup for the cabinet positions is a horror show, threatening our environment, our national security, our social security, our Medicare, and on and on and on. There is reason for people to be fearful right now. And of course, this has been a reality for marginalized groups in America for a long, long time. But now the veil has been lifted, and the uglier underside of our nation is fully exposed. Ugliness driven by greed and fear, fueled by divide and conquer politics, pitting us one against another, while corporate plutocrats sip their champagne on their yachts anchored off the Cayman Islands, where they don't pay their taxes. But there's real pain here. There's real pain in our nation right now. I've heard of stories this week of families completely divided. People telling their relatives to get over it and calm down, perhaps even mocking their fears. My own cousin and his friends posted all manner of hateful things, including things like, we're going to purge all the liberals now. Purge all the liberals? Really? Yeah, that kind of stuff's floating around out there right now, from my own family. So this is not a time for calming down. It's about honoring the very real concerns brought on by this divisive election campaign, a culmination of years of increasing divisiveness. Some of us are fearing for our very lives right now. It's nowhere near a time to be talking about, oh, can't we all just get along? Things are still too raw, too uncertain, and too painful. And yet, like Sam, I believe there's good in the world and that it's worth fighting for. There's a reason in the story he's called Samwise Gamgee. Samwise. There is good in the world and it's worth fighting for. I ultimately am a hope person, or else I couldn't be a minister. Yeah. There are many, many good things in this world, in this nation, and they're worth fighting for. I stand here before you hopeful, in spite of my own fears, my own angst, and my own worries about our collective future. So if I were you, I'd be thinking, so Shelley, in the face of everything, where does this hope live? I mean, how can you be hopeful at a time like this? What's the source of your hope? And you'd be asking good and reasonable questions if you were asking those questions. My answer goes to the very core of my beliefs grounded in our Unitarian Universalist faith. Because we are the hope people. We are the people who say what matters in this life is what is important. Not because there is an all-knowing God keeping score who determines where we spend eternity, but because we are in the world to change the world, to bend the moral arc of the universe toward justice. As our Universalist ancestors would say, we are here to love the hell out of the world. Yes, love the hell out of the world. This very weird and wonderful and troubled world in which we find ourselves. Now it's easy to have hope when things are going good. But that, quite honestly, is a Pollyanna hope, and I know you all know that. It's a really shallow, naive hope. It's the kind of hope we take for granted. That of course things will get better, things will smooth over. We've been there before, we've been there again, it'll be okay. It's when our hope is challenged, like right now, that we rise, that we transform, that we become the purveyors of hope. As my colleague David Pyle puts it, hope must be created in every moment. Every moment. And as people of liberal faith, it falls to us to create the hope in the future within this world. More than a hope for a future once this mortal coil falls away. We of liberal faith are called to be the bringers of hope for this world in these times for all of us. Yeah. That's who we are. That's who we are. That's our deep heritage. Think of the social justice movements of the 19th and 20th centuries. Tough, nasty, and yes, sometimes violent fights for abolition, for women's rights, for workers' rights, civil rights, gay rights. Think of Theodore Parker, our Unitarian ancestor, working not only anti-war during the Mexican-American War, but actually harboring slaves in his own home, in his own church, during the time when the Fugitive Slave Act was happening. He kept a pistol on his pulpit because slave catchers were walking into his church during the services. And he kept those slaves, those African Americans, right there in the front pew. Yeah, those are the people we come from. We come from Susan B. Anthony. If she hadn't given her life and endured all kinds of hate speech, people throwing things at her, her being beaten. When she was arrested in 1872, she was beaten and jailed, folks. That's our Unitarian ancestor. And the women in this room can vote now because of her. So that's who we have come from. And those people are passing the torch to us right now to lead with hope. Now, it may sound easy to say all this about hope, but it can ring hollow if we're despairing. But you know, the opposite of hope is not despair. It is apathy. Simply not caring, not engaging, giving up. Apathy is saying hope is no longer possible. Now, if there is a good piece of news out of what's happened this week, it could be that more and more people are moving from a place of apathy to caring. And these people, of course, are on all ends of the spectrum. Caring. And you yourself know that if you are awake and care, you can hope. And even right now, if you're the ones feeling great despair, not seeing how this whole thing is going to end well, not seeing how our cherished values of love, justice, and peace can be achieved, take heart. You cared enough to be here today. You cared enough to seek out community. You care. We are a people who care no matter what. And when you care, hope is born over and over and over again. We create that hope every moment. And of course, that means that hope is rising among all who care, including people who seem hell-bent on hurting others right now, feeling like they have a fresh license to spew hate speech, harass and beat people, and yes, even kill people. I am fearful that people I know and love have been hurt or will be hurt soon. I'm scared that some people that I know and love might even die before all this is over. I'm concerned about in America that what is it going to be for the rest of my days and for the lives of my daughters and for the generations to come after them. And yet, if people on all sides of this care, then there really is hope. For we can talk about what we care about. We can find where our caring intersects, where my concerns and your concerns intersect, where they meet, where we might find some common ground. I see possibility there, but it will take courage. It will take a lot of courage. And make no mistake, you can't be brave unless you're afraid to begin with. Being brave right now, of course, means several things. It means calling out injustice when we see it. That's why I am wearing a safety pin. And I'm going to be wearing a safety pin every day from now until this world shifts in a different way.
Amen.
Now you might be wondering, what is the safety pin thing about? Well, let me just tell you. After England decided to exit from the European Union with their Brexit vote, there was a significant uptick in violence and hate speech against the immigrants and the refugees in their country. The good people of Great Britain decided to find a symbol to indicate, hey, I'm a safe person. I'm not anti-Muslim. I'm not anti-fill in the blank. I am with you. And so people started wearing safety pins for the obvious symbolism, safety. And so people all over England started wearing these safety pins. And their Muslim neighbors, their refugee friends, their co-workers, the people they just meet out on the street could breathe easier. And so this week, in the wake of the election, Americans who knew of what the British had done said, hey, let's borrow this idea from our Brit neighbors and let's wear these pins. Now I'm going to tell you something more about this pin. This pin is not like an AIDS ribbon, and it's not like a breast cancer ribbon. It's not like a rainbow ribbon you wear on Pride. No, those are ribbons of solidarity. And as a liberal person, you can feel like a good liberal wearing it. And it is important. Those ribbons are important. I have a whole collection of them. And I enjoy wearing them. This pin says something different. This pin says, I will stick up for you actively. I will stand forth and disrupt when I see harassment happening. I will stand and be there with you. I will take action. I will sit next to you on the bus. I will protect you because you are my neighbor writ large. I will be there for you as an American who embraces my fellow Americans. And so you don't wear this pin unless you're willing to make that commitment. And there's one other thing you can do with the pin. Perhaps making that full commitment makes you feel a little too vulnerable right now. And I understand that if that's the case for you. I really, really do. And so what is being suggested is that if you cannot wear the pin openly, like I am doing, then take a pin and tuck it somewhere not visible. But then you know it's there in your heart and that you are not alone in this time of uncertainty and danger. You know that there are others with you. And so today, during Candles and Stones, when you come forward, you will find on each of our altars a goblet with safety pins. Feel free to select one and then return to your seat and put it on. Whether you put it on openly or you tuck it somewhere where it's meaningful to you. And of course, this is completely optional. It's only if you really want to make this commitment, but it's important to know that this is a thing in our country right now. It truly is. My newly minted transgender nephew, my niece Caitlin, who is now my nephew Cade, said to me, yes, wear those pins. When I see those pins, when I walk on the streets of New York, where Cade lives, I know I'm safe. So I have it from a source that it means something. Now, there's something else that goes on here. We have to get out of our fraidy cat comfort zones and talk with people who make us feel completely uncomfortable and utterly scared. The people who terrify us. Yeah, whoever they may be. That's the truth of it, because we need to be able to disrupt this us and them mode. And the only way we do that is to act with courageous curiosity, to discover the real concerns of others, where we just might find some common ground and a basis for moving forward in a productive, life-affirming way. This is not Pollyanna talking here. This is the real, true, hard work that's ahead of us. Building bridges when we feel like we're stepping over a deep gorge filled with rushing rapids and jagged rocks. Yeah. It's fraught with danger, but the bridge can never be built if we don't go there. Otherwise, we continue to live in peril. So you might be thinking, oh, this is all good, Shelley, but how are we going to do this? Well, we're not going to do it alone. That's for darn sure. First, we're going to learn how to be. We're going to do some training with ourselves, by the way, about how to be that person that sticks up when you're wearing the pin. That's one thing. But we're going to have to get out there in the community. We're going to work like the Dickens to talk with people and get to know them, people we've never even thought about communicating with. We're going to be needing to build coalitions of the willing, people who are going to stand ready with us to challenge hate and injustice wherever we encounter it, starting right here in Ogden. We, Unitarian Universalists, can be the infrastructure of the revolution. Did you know that people already think of us that way here in Ogden? They do. Just this week, someone said to me, oh yeah, Your church was the one who worked on the Human Rights Ordinance. And another person said, hey, thanks. Your church took some of that leadership in the diesel emissions testing fight down with the health board. You go. Yeah. And just yesterday morning, when I arrived at the town hall post-election conversation at Weber State, someone said to me, oh, your people are here, pointing down the way, saying, oh, your people are always here. They show up. Yeah, thanks to the people who did. With the people who've been participating in these town hall conversations, there have been 3 of them now. Anybody who's participating in any of them, please stand. I know some of you have. Yeah, okay. Stay standing. How about people who came to the health department meetings to support the diesel emissions? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And from back in the day, those of you who were down at City Hall putting in a good word for the Human Rights Ordinance. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. You are ready to work. Thank you, thank you. Unitarian Universalists show up. We show up to learn, to listen, and to try to make a difference as ever we can. You know, we already have that reputation, so let's build on it. Getting out there in even more ways and inviting the wider community into our own space, hosting meetings, hosting vigils, whatever we need to be doing. This time to come is not a time for small, timid thinking. We don't have time for that. Don't have time for that. Things just got serious, real serious, and we need to be serious too. Seriously engaged in building partnerships, coalitions, and bridges. Seriously engaged in spreading hope. For when Theodore Parker, the guy with the pistol on the pulpit, spoke about the moral arc of the universe being long but bending toward justice, he was not referring to some vague out there force doing the bending, some kind of wishful Pollyanna thinking. No. Parker and our other ancestors knew that the only way that the moral arc bends is for people to haul on the rope of hope, to keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling in their lifetime to accomplish whatever progress they could to bring about the realm of love, of justice, and peace. It's people of good faith working together, courageously stepping out, that saves the world. We are the ones, yeah, we are the hope bringers. So in these days to come, yes, embrace your grief. Embrace your grief fully and move through it. And let's be gentle with ourselves and with each other during these times when emotions are running all over the place. Let's be there for each other as the increasing chaos swirls around us. But let's also get ready to roll up our sleeves. We're entering a time of rapid change, and all hands need to be on deck. Each of us, and I truly mean it, each of us has a role to play in this battle, and make no mistake, it is a battle for a fair, just, and free society. Let's be the bringers of hope here in Ogden and beyond. We are the people who do not give up. We are the people hauling on that rope of hope over and over again. The world is counting on us. For there is some good in the world, and it's worth fighting for. Let that be the story that we tell, and the story to be told by those who come after us. May it be so.